All right, welcome to First Universalist of New Madison on this chilly fall day. The leaves are turning, the crops are coming in. This is the part of fall that we really enjoy. Do we have any announcements? We had our church board, our Audible church board this week. I think we're making progress on our Ukraine donations. We're looking into either buying or accumulating coats, sweaters, gloves, hats to send to Ukraine. And we're also, I think we're looking into if there are refugee families from Ukraine, if there was anything we can do to help them. So that is in process. If anybody has any suggestions, or I think what we're trying to do is include more than just our church and El Dorado. We're trying to see if anybody in Dark County would be interested in it. Yes?
Well, I heard a little announcement on one of the stations that they would prefer monetary donations rather than trying to send things to Ukraine.
Yeah, this is a question I have. A container going overseas used to cost $5,000 to send a container. This is from China to here, and I'm assuming it's the same to Europe. But because of the shortage and the supply chain and all that problems, it's now $45,000 to ship a container, which is why all of your stuff is late.
And it probably takes quite a while to get there.
If we put in winter coats now, and by the time they get to the East Coast and get on a ship, and it takes 2 weeks to get to the Ukraine, then it takes, or get to Italy, and then it takes how many weeks to get to, it'll be spring before the winter coats get there.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion, is that money would be easier, but Lou is working with this church in somewhere in northern Ohio.
Columbus area.
Yeah, yeah, and they are a church related to or connected to the East, the Ukraine. And if they want to send things and they have a program to do it, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, anybody, if you have coats or things you want to do, but that would be my suggestion, or we need to talk about it. Do we want to take our money and buy coats, or do you just want to send our money to a reputable organization over there?
Yeah.
Because I know they have coats in Yugoslavia, they have coats in Romania, they have coats in Italy that they could actually buy there and send them over. So that's what we're talking about. But I do not want to discourage anybody from doing anything that they can to help. Anything that you do would be a help. And any suggestions you have and any contributions you want to make, we will work with. If you want to give coats and hats to us instead of the Goodwill, that's not a problem. We will make sure they get there. If they don't get there this year, they're going to get there next year. And this is not going away this year. They're going to be in serious trouble, even if the war stopped. That country has been leveled practically, and those people have nothing. So they're going to need all that. And you won't need to send coats and hats and gloves to Florida with the disaster they've had. So they don't need coats and hats and gloves. Okay, anything else? We are talking this week on, and because of all the things that have happened, I'm sure you heard about in Thailand, the guy went into the nursery school and killed like 24 or 21 or 22 little kids, like 5 and 6 years old, 4 to 5, 6 years old, and their teachers. Then went home and killed his wife and his child, and then killed himself. Disasters are happening all over the world. The question this week is a book we read and talked to Rabbi Harold Kirshner, is a Jewish rabbi. He wrote a book, was the first one to do this, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. This was in 1981, and we actually got to talk to and go to a little meeting with Dr. Kirshner in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They were having a presentation there. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And we'll talk about why bad things happen to good people, the different interpretations and reasons that people put on that, some of which are pretty hair-raising. Okay, anything else? Hearts and minds. We heard the sirens this morning, and evidently Care Flight was observed landing someplace close to here. So somebody is in serious trouble today, and we hope and we pray that they will come out of this okay. And we bless and thank the first responders and the air crews and the nurses who deliver rescue in these times of stress. All right, our prelude, If I Love You, from Carousel. If I Love You, perfect introduction for our message this week of community. Also, as a sidelight, we are trialing our sound system, and maybe Emerson can help us with this. I've got these Wi-Fi headphones, but there's like a little delay, so they hear me speaking and they hear that. But the speakers above screw up the microphone on the thing. So we're trying to figure out a way to put speakers, like little speakers, back in there that point to the back and don't interfere with this. So if you had, even if we wired them, so if you got any suggestions, let us know. The headphones are only $20. I was going to buy a couple of those, but the people that have tried them say it's confusing because they hear my voice from the front, and then a split second later they hear my voice again, which, unless you can get the kind that drown it completely out, doesn't help. So we're still working to help those who don't hear quite as well, and I keep trying to remember to talk louder, so tell me to do that and I can. Okay. All right, our chalice lighting, a communion of heart and soul by Ruth Southworth. For the gift of this day and for our community of spiritual nurture and compassion, we give thanks. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul. The living, breathing essence of this church, as I continually harp on this, community. So let our sparks merge and meet in communion of heart and soul. Our opening hymn is 338. I seek the spirit of a child. but the words are not bad. I seek the freedom of a child who loves instinctively, who lights our day with just a smile and shines the light on all we see. Children are real beyond all fears. May I see hope's a gift to our tears. And that's what, if you're watching at home, I want you to have kind of a flavor of what we're doing. When you're here, you can read the hymnal. There probably is a way, if I could work it out, if I knew the sound soon enough. Kenny gave us the hymn book online. I could actually put it up on the screen so you could read it. But when I only get the songs 10 minutes before church, I can't do it in that amount of time. So we'll work on that. Actually, if anybody is interested in that, let me know, because it's kind of fruitless to go through all that work to put the lyrics up and then have nobody actually look at them. Because we do this on Facebook Live every Sunday, and then I make a copy and I put it on YouTube, because some people don't like Facebook. So I figured they could go to YouTube and get it. So far, nobody has ever looked at one of them on YouTube. But I still put them up there just so they're there. All right. Our affirmation, do not be alone right now, by Karen Johnson. Do not be alone right now. Gather together. Gathering together grows courage in ourselves and in others who see the numbers swelling. It is a small thing, but right now it is an important thing. Great sources of wisdom remind us, just because you cannot stem the tide of all hate, it is still the right thing to do, the right thing you can do. These things add up. Your one thing and my one thing, his one thing and their one thing and her one thing. Together it becomes a big thing. Do not be alone right now. Any liberation, all liberation is collective liberation. My freedom is bound with yours and yours with mine inextricably. Let us together cast our lots doing this big thing, bending the moral arc of the universe toward justice. All right, our story. Hopefully they can hear on that.
Yeah.
And the important part is what we're showing now. My first slide, all the slides are on the topic we're talking about, bad things happening to good people. This is either an angel or Christ looking at the human condition and wondering just what is going on here. And our children's story is going to be a tough one. It's tough for me. How many saw CBS News Friday? What's his name? Steve Hartman, On the Road. I always get a kick out of that every Friday. He does an On the Road thing. He was in Richmond, Indiana last Friday. Well, he was there before Friday, but it was shown on Friday's show. This is what Steve Hartman brought to us.
Yeah.
Sometimes a small act of kindness can have enormous impact. Steve Hartman found an example on the road.
Amazing grace, how
after a Richmond.
Looks like Spectrum's going to give us a hard time here.
Welcome to the Warrior Parade.
I played it earlier today just to check, and it worked fine. So we'll go back and do it again.
Sometimes a small act of kindness can have enormous impact. Steve Hartman found an example on the road.
amazing grace, how
After a Richmond, Indiana police officer was shot in the line of duty days before her wedding, the whole community grieved deeply. 28-year-old officer Sarah Burton was beloved, so the idea that anything good could ever come from her passing was unimaginable, until one day a stranger walked into the department. He held in his hand a white envelope, and inside, a sliver of hope. To information clerk Charlotte Jones, the man appeared to be homeless.
And I told him, I said, this is like the most amazing gift that we have gotten.
Inside the envelope, 8 crumpled up $1 bills and a note that read, "People from the street." He accepted a hug, but insisted on no other recognition.
The man didn't give his name, but he said Officer Burton was kind and would often check in on the homeless. So he took up a collection and got donations from people on the street, people with virtually nothing to give. They gave that knowing they don't know if they're going to have another dollar tomorrow.
Richmond Police Lieutenant Donnie Benedict.
That's as genuine as you're going to get. I mean, that $8 was like $8 million.
We'll never know exactly who all gave or why. Those answers are hiding beneath the brush and underpasses of Richmond. But by all accounts, Sierra Burton was generous and fair, with a face that always defaulted to a smile.
Does it surprise you at all that people on the street?
Not at all. Not her. No.
Officer Amy Miller was Sierra's stepmom.
What do you hope comes from all this?
People don't forget who she was. And this is part of who she is.
In Sierra's honor, donations for the homeless are already pouring in. But for the department, the greatest gift will always be that simple white envelope.
There's hope out there. There are people out there who will give everything.
Both those in the line of duty and those they serve. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Richmond, Indiana.
Sometimes a small act of...
All right. I don't know why Sierra affects me so much. An innocent person who is just trying to help. I do this every week, and I don't want people to forget Sierra, and I don't think they will. But this fits right in why bad things happen to good people. Sierra was a good person, and yet good things do come out of that. And how many people know what this is? How many people have heard the story of the widow's mite?
Widow's what?
The widow's mite from the Bible. Christ at the temple, watching the Pharisees come in and donate to the church, to the Jewish temple, putting in large sums of money and then bowing and getting recognition. It still happens today. Somebody funds a bell or a tower or a window and their name goes on it. We remember it for years and generations, and there's not a thing wrong with that. To get the acknowledgement or the recognition for your generosity is worth it. But the widow's mite, he noticed the widow who came in and gave a mite. And a mite is actually, and it's M-I-T-E, it's not M-I-G-H-T, it's M-I-T-E, the widow's mite. A mite is an actual coin, a bronze coin from the time of Christ, and it's also known as a lepton, which is a Roman coin meaning small. It was minted by Alexander Jannaeus, king of Judea, 103 to 76 BC. And as a side note, you'll notice BC, the numbers get slower, they get lower as you come down to the year 0 when Christ was born, and then they start to go up again. So don't get confused by that. And they still were in circulation at the time of Christ. So the widow contributed her mite, which was, I think they figured, this was from Mark 12, 41 through 44, and Luke 21, 1 through 4. And this was Jesus' teaching at the temple in Jerusalem. Gospel of Mark specifies that 2 mites, they are Greek lepta or Roman coins, are together worth a quadrans, the smallest Roman coin. A lepton was the smallest and least valuable coin in circulation in Judea, and it was worth 6 minutes of an average day's wage. So this widow gave 6 minutes of an average working man's wage, which to her was everything that she had. Which is, we look at these homeless people in Richmond who donated $8. If you figure $15 an hour That comes out to 25 cents a minute. That comes out to $1.50 for their 6 minutes. So things have not changed since the time of Christ. These people in Richmond who have no home, who live on the street, donated basically 6 minutes of an average person's working time, $1.50 each. And yet that was almost everything they would have at that time. So bad things still happen, but good things still happen at the same time. So that's where we are with the story of Sierra and the widow's mite. Joys and concerns. We have still the disaster in Florida is going on. We have the disaster in Thailand. We have the traffic accidents and the deaths that have happened in Dark County. The list goes on interminably. You can add to it forever. Hopefully the health and well-being of people in the congregation is doing well. I did not get down to see Gordon this week. I will try to get down to see him next week. And since I'm doing that, I'm also going to do a hospital visit for my neighbor who's in the hospital down at Kettering. So I'm getting sucked into this. So, does anybody, we have, the Ukraine is still in a terrible position at not looking any better, and the threats of nuclear war are truly frightening. And who knows, nobody really knows what's going to happen with that. So, we'll do one for Sierra and her family. One for the Ukraine, one for the traffic accidents, one for the children of the world, and one for those thoughts and prayers, those fears, those desires which you get. Yes?
Were you ending? Because I wanted to add something.
I'm done. Yep, go ahead.
This week, I watched 6 hours on TV on demand of a show called The U.S. and the Holocaust. And that's Ken Burns' documentary that was on PBS. Did anybody see it?
Yes, I did.
You saw it too?
Yeah.
I was just, well, I've always been really horrified by that whole thing, and I had to force myself to watch the program knowing I was gonna be affected by it. But it had some insights that were brand new to me. And I'm thinking about buying it on DVD and seeing if maybe we could show it and get together and watch it. I don't know if anybody's interested in that or not, but there's a place where you can get discussion materials on it. And I just thought with the way things are today, and the Jewish Holocaust was relatively a long time ago. Things haven't changed that much. And I just feel that sharing that would be important. So it's not exactly joy and concern, but it's a concern for me.
It's the community. It's part of what we do.
Yeah.
And we've talked about getting together, and I still, probably within the next month, if people are interested, the cottage will be open one of these weekend days, probably a Sunday after church, if people want to come up for pizza or some kind of snacks. And that's what I wanted to do, is show a movie. I wanted to show Lincoln. And also, if you want to talk about the Holocaust, I've borrowed from Netflix the I can't think of her name right now, the woman, the German filmmaker, the woman who made the thing on Hitler when he did the Nuremberg rally. That is one of the first propaganda movies ever made, and it's a pretty incredible movie, and the story about it is also Lily Riefenstahl is her name. Tremendous artistic talent bent in the wrong direction. I wanted to show that one. We might be able to do, I think on PBS, since I'm a contributor, I think I can go online and watch their shows without buying. And if you want to buy it and bring it, that would be the easiest thing. But I think we could actually go online.
But it's 6 hours.
Well, we can't do 6 hours.
No, you have to do it in chunks.
Yeah. Well, what we would have to do is pick one that's the most meaningful to you, the 1 hour show, and we'll do that one and then extrapolate out from that. I'm not sure, because if we did 6 hours once a month, it would take us half a year to go all the way through it. But I think we could pick one, either the introductory or maybe the final one, because there were some pretty amazing things. There were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Jewish refugees that applied for asylum in the United States, and the same anti-immigrant, don't let the Jews in people in Congress condemned those people to death. They had friends here, they had money, they had property. They had even been here, a couple of them, one of the ones they talked about had even been in the United States and worked here and tried to get back in with his family. And the conservative members of Congress would not allow these people to come in. And the same thing happened in many other countries, although thousands and thousands of Jews did escape. They had the Swedish gentleman, the attaché at the Swedish embassy, got thousands of Jews out. You remember the movie, whose name I also can't remember, the guy who had the factory. Schindler's List. People did save as many as they could, but 6 million, and actually it was not only Jews. If you watched, I think it was PBS last night, talked about Hitler's plan for the future. He got his ideas for the destruction of the Jewish race from the United States. There was a thing in the 20s and the 30s, whose name also escapes me, where you call out the least viable members of your society.
I believe it's eugenics.
Eugenics movement started in the United States. There was professors from colleges, people wrote papers on it, everybody talked about it. But in the United States, nobody said, well, we'll just kill the people we don't want. What they would wanted to do was stop them from breeding. In my little town of Auburn, Indiana, our judge was sued because he okayed the sterilization of a retarded girl whose mother said, I can't keep her away from the boys. She keeps going out at night, and I'm afraid she's going to get pregnant. So he okayed to have her sterilized, and then she sued him like 10 years later because she couldn't have children. And I actually left town, went to college, and never really heard the result of it. But this judge was a really nice guy, a very honest guy, and only trying to do the best thing. But obviously made a mistake, I think, in that instance. So anyway, Hitler went back to Germany and said, we have no compunctions against eliminating these people. So they started at the first concentration camps, the first death camps, started with the retarded, with the mentally ill, with people with a criminal history. They just basically, they had a meeting of doctors and scientists, and they decided who was defective, who was not part of the Aryan race, and they basically killed them. They eliminated them. They executed them. And then they just started expanding out. The extermination of the Jews didn't start instantly. It started a little bit at a time with the Kristallnacht, which is when they encouraged everybody to break into Jewish shops and trash Jewish shops. They took away their citizenship. They didn't allow them to vote. They didn't allow them to live wherever they wanted to live. They put them in the ghettos. They made them wear the yellow star. All this stuff happened incrementally, and that's what's scary when you watch the way people treat immigrants in this country. The same process goes on over and over again. It's not just in this country, it's in Africa, it's in Asia. It happens over and over again. So, all right. So, want to do it like in a month, I'll pick a Sunday and let people know, and if you want to get that, if you get it, or we'll find out, and then we'll meet at the cottage up at the lake. I think some of you have been there, and I can give you directions right after church. We'll either have a carry-in, and I always have plenty of pizza there, so we'll have pizza, soda, and lemonade, stuff like that. There might even be a beer for those who arrive, and we'll do that. That sounds like a good idea, and something that we can invite anybody to. You don't have to be a member of this little group. You can invite friends or family or anybody else. All right. Our message, which we're talking about already, we've kind of fallen right into it, is why bad things happen to good people. Harold Kirshner, 1981, we went down to see Dr. Kirshner, Rabbi Kirshner. His impetus for writing this was his son had an incurable disease and died at age 14 and lived an exemplary life. He went to school, he lived as a normal life as long as he could before he died, and was peaceful, accepting, helpful, outgoing, just a paragon of what you would want to be yourself or what you would want to see in your family member if they were facing an imminent death that was unavoidable. He struggled with this and came up with these thoughts and wrote this book. He's a quiet, unassuming person. He's not one of these people that's out promoting himself. I never get that kind of queasy feeling every time I see that guy whose kid was kidnapped like years and years ago, and then he went on to do all kinds of television shows and made a complete living out of the death of his child. That just seems kind of squirrely to me. So anyway, he's a nice, quiet guy. He does not have any revelations. What he tells you is kind of what is the Jewish understanding of why bad things happen to good people. First of all, we'll go to just a picture of bad things. I don't really think of pigs as bad things, but pigs are kind of stuck with that reputation. Pigs in the garbage dump behind a nuclear plant spewing things all over the sky. So, and then we'll go to the next one. I found a few differences in people, why bad things happen to good people, and some of them were really interesting. Take pagans, for instance. If you're a pagan, why bad things happen? Because you made one of the gods mad. That's the basic pagan understanding. There's spirits all over the world, and if you cross one, or someone is a sorceress or a witch and can bring down a curse on you, then it's because you've offended someone or done something that's offended the god. That's why bad things happen. The main thing is reason. People want to ascribe a reason for everything that happens. If something good happens, there's a reason for it. If something bad happens, there's a reason for it. Except if you're an atheist. An atheist doesn't believe in reasons for things happening, good or bad. Things just happen randomly. Good things happen to bad people, good things happen to good people. If you don't concentrate on looking for bad things, you'll realize that good things are happening, and you'll realize that bad things are happening, and they're really kind of unconnected to anything else. It's just random life. The Jewish understanding was kind of interesting, and that's where the story of Job comes in. The problem of suffering. One of the primary understandings, and this is what Kirshner talks quite a bit about, is it is a test of good people. If you remember the story of Job, he was a God-fearing, worshiping, good man, an honest man who worshiped God in the standard ways that everybody did, and he was tested actually because the devil made a bet with God, Satan made a bet with God that he could tempt Job away, or he could drive a wedge between God and Job by having all these disasters happen to him. So his animals died, his wife died, his children died, his crops were ruined. He finally had a wailing prayer to God and said, "Why are you doing this to me?" And God says, "Only the best get the worst." In other words, the better you are, the harder your test is going to be. The more, and what it is you should be proud, Job, that the devil has done all this to you and you are still loyal to me, because that shows the strength of your loyalty, the strength of your belief. That is a pretty peculiar understanding of faith. But it is one that is totally understandable when you think of 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. Why did God let that happen? That's what Jews are asking themselves. Why did God let that happen? Why did God let evil kill so many people? Because the Jews are the chosen race. They are the best of people, and they will suffer the worst of tribulations. It is a way to understand it. I'm not sure it's the way I would understand it, but it is a way of understanding. Another one is ignorance, which was an interesting interpretation. Poor people or stupid people deserve what they get. All of us see this, and we do it unconsciously. You see people doing stupid things and then bad things happen to them. They take their paycheck, they spend it on booze or cigarettes or the racetrack, and then they can't pay their rent and they get evicted. Why did a bad thing happen to that person? Because they had an opportunity to make their life better and they threw it away. People are given opportunities to make their life better. They're offered jobs, they're offered situations where if they just follow the rules and do the best they can, they will be supposedly rewarded. And they don't. They just turn around and do the same things over again. So this understanding is if you're stupid or ignorant, you deserve what you get. That's why bad things are happening to you. And conversely, if you're a Horatio Alger, that American plucky individual who works hard and doesn't ask for anything but does the best they can, good things will come upon you. And we see that all the time. The guy who walks 5 miles to work because he doesn't have a car every day and people see him walking to work, his coworkers will buy him a car because he didn't ask for anything. He just did his best to be a good person and he was rewarded for that. So that still happens. And that's the difference we're asking in society. When someone is sick, their child is sick, they go on TV or Facebook and they ask for money and they show you a picture of a pitiful child and give you the whole backstory. Tons of people throw money at them and they come out smelling like a rose. Some poor kid whose parents aren't telegenic and don't know how to do Facebook, they have no money, they can't afford the surgery, that kid suffers. There's something about injustice where it doesn't come out evenly. It shouldn't matter who you are or what your face is like on TV to determine whether you live or whether you die. Part of the injustice of the world. The other part is, another example is unfairness. The world is unfair. So if you are a minority or you are minority religion, minority sex, minority race, if you are a minority in the way you look, if you've been disfigured, then bad things are going to happen to you because people will take advantage of you. People will, if you're Chinese in San Francisco and somebody doesn't like the Chinese because of the flu, they beat up old Chinese ladies walking down the street were beaten up for no reason just because they're Chinese. So that's one understanding of why bad things happen to those people, just because of who they are. No religious significance. No real true understanding, just if you're born unlucky, then bad things are going to happen. And then we get to fundamentalist religion. This was one of the ones that was the most exciting and the most interesting and probably the most scary of all the ones that I looked at. And let me read you a little bit about, this is a direct quote taken from a lecture or a sermon on the internet. Why do bad things happen to good people? Bad things happen to people because sin has pervaded every inch of the earth. Due to the fall of man, we are not good people and are deserving of God's wrath. We are deserving of God's wrath. We also have an enemy, Satan, who is trying to destroy our lives because he hates that we are made in the image of God. God also uses bad things to show us that he is always with us. Think about that reasoning. God also uses bad things to show us that he is always with us. In other words, if you had a good life and everything was fine, would you be praising God? No, you'd kind of just accept it and go along. When disaster happens, that's when you're saying, God, please help me. If there's a plane crash and you're the only survivor, God likes me, God chose me, God favored me. I know there's a God because I'm still alive. Bad things happen to other people, but something good happened to me. He has, lost my line. And we desperately need to see him and need him in every area of our lives. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks after God. They have all turned aside. They have all together have become unprofitable. There is none who does good, no, not one. That's Romans 3:10-12. Because of the fall of man and sin pervading the world, human beings are neither innocent nor good. Even those whom we think are the best Christians are not worthy of being called good. Bad things happen to us because we're bad. Spiritually, we are dead and devoid of all life because we are all born with a sinful nature and we have all sinned against God. We are worse than we realize. We deserve the wrath of God. Anything we do outside of faith in God is sin. There is nothing good in us. I can't imagine what it would be like to go to church and hear that every Sunday, that you are a sinner, there's no redemption, even your good works, and you've heard this, good works do not save you, it's by grace alone. Christ died for your sins, Christ died to save you, but you're a worthless worm and you don't deserve it. I can't, and there are churches that preach this and there are people that follow this. These people are in pain. They are suffering and they need help. And I guess my only wish is this is not the help that they should get. All right, let's go on to Harold Kirshner. Does anybody have any comments on fundamentalist religion? Because it is causing lots of problems, not just for Christian religion, the Muslim religion. We know the fundamentalists are the ones who believe in martyring themselves and killing themselves to kill other people, as if even the Muslim God, which would smile on the fact that you kill people. The people who were in the airplanes that hit the 9/11, hit the towers, they killed everybody on the plane and 3,000 people on the ground, thought they were doing God's will. I mean, there's a name for insanity, and I think that would be it. All right, I had a quote here that I wanted to read. Where is it? Oh. You just need to be a flea against injustice. Enough committed fleas, biting strategically, can even make the biggest dog uncomfortable and transform even the biggest nation. Marian Wright Edelman. This is the crux of what we're talking about is justice. What is justice? What is good? What is bad? What do people deserve? Whether they deserve it or not, should they get it? So that's what we're going to talk about, and that's what Kirshner talks about. We could bear nearly any pain or disappointment if we thought there was a reason behind it, a purpose to it. That was from Rabbi Harold Kirshner. We could bear nearly any pain or disappointment, even the death of a beloved child, if we thought there was a reason behind it, a purpose to it. There is no purpose behind the death of a child. There is no reason to it. So, how did Rabbi Kirshner find the end to that? We all know people who have suffered chronic diseases or experienced bad things in this world. We don't always understand why God never healed them or seemed to help them, even though we have prayed and prayed. If people are good, why does he allow bad things to happen in the first place? His main idea is that God cannot or will not intervene to protect people from tragedies, nor will he punish or reward them for their actions, preferring that humans use their free will without interference. This is the crust of the Jewish understanding of, this is my understanding of their Jewish understanding of religion. I don't claim to be a scholar on this. That God is set things in motion. God is not all-powerful. God cannot stop all tragedies, and God cannot reward all good things. God is there to help you through the bad times. If you put your faith in God, then he will relieve your pain. He will let your pain ease because of your faith in him. He doesn't give you the cure. He doesn't give you, when you pray for money and send money to the pastor in Florida, you're not going to get 12-fold money back. You're going to get relief from your pain. So, bad things can happen to good people by accident or from malicious people, and in remedy, God offers only his support and love. People must find meaning and purpose from their own strength and resolve in overcoming adversity. As the centerpiece of his argument, he recounts the book of Job from the Bible. Job is a good and pious man whose faith is tested when God burdens him with multiple disasters until, naked, ill, and with only 3 friends, Job finally demands an accounting. God visits him and makes it clear that his purpose is not to satisfy human needs. God's purpose is not to answer to human beings. God has his own purpose. Job, recognizing God's majesty, relents, and God rewards him with health, wealth, and children, which seems to be a slight logical flaw in the argument. Job relents on his criticism of God, says, I have faith in you, I love you, I will do anything for you. And God, instead of saying, okay, we're going to keep on going the way we are, God says, I'm going to reward you for your faith, and gives him health, wealth, and children, I'm assuming, and another wife or 2 or 3. So to me, that undercuts the argument a little bit. Job was rewarded, and that is the underlying thing behind most religions. If you're faithful, do your contributions, do your good works, you will be rewarded. If not on this life, in the next life. That is the whole thing about heaven. Kirshner believes everyone, including good people, must contend with tragedy without expecting God's intercession. Many who suffer conclude that God is cruel or uncaring, but Kirshner makes the radical counter-argument that God does care, but simply can't prevent our misfortunes. That is a choice Kirshner is making in his understanding. He's not saying that God won't prevent our misfortunes. He's saying he can't prevent our misfortunes. That kind of lets God off the hook. God is a caring, and you can't say omnipotent being anymore. He's a caring spiritual being who wants the best for us and helps us in any way he can, but has no real power to do one way or the other. That kind of conflicts with the whole idea of prayer. So, pain and suffering aren't entirely useless, since they teach us to avoid actions that injure us. As we talked about, poor people who make mistakes and the same mistake over and over again, they give their title to their car to the loan shark and pay 28 or 29% interest, and then they get behind on the loan because the interest keeps piling up and they lose their car. They work hard, they get another car, they make another stupid loan for something they don't need, or they buy a refrigerator from the rent-to-own places and pay 26%. And I've run across this. I've told you that story about the people that I was renting to that I had a used refrigerator and used stove that I would have sold them for $50 and they could have paid at any time. But they went to Rent-A-Center and paid like $800 or $900 dollars, and they're paying $500 or $600 a month. Now they can't pay their rent. So if they don't pay their rent, I can't do this forever. They're going to be out of a house. They'll have a nice refrigerator and a nice stove, but they're going to have to put it in a tent because they won't be doing it in my house. So, all right. As for malicious damage caused by evil people, such as Hitler's Holocaust, God shares our anger but will not intercede, because this would abrogate human free will and discourage us from doing the good works that over time greatly exceed the bad deeds. So that would be the understanding. God did not stop the Holocaust because that would be interfering with human free will. The American populace, the American government had the free will not to allow Jewish refugees to come in, so they had to die in the gas chambers, and God did not change anyone's heart, did not change anyone's mind. Though God does not step in to prevent bad things from happening, he does offer love and strength to those who ask for his aid. In praying, not for the exemption from suffering, but for the fortitude to overcome it, people often find they have more than enough power to prevail over disaster. We're basically on the same page here. Rabbi Kushner wants you to pray to God for your support in times of trouble. And I would ask you to come to your community and be a part of that community to help other people in times of trouble, and hopefully they will help you in times of trouble. Kind of the same thing, and probably both as intangible as the other, and probably neither is reliable as we would like as the other. So, any comments? Yes.
Well, I kind of lean toward the atheists.
Everything's
Yeah.
random.
Yeah.
I am too.
Simplifies things. It gets rid of a lot of resentment I might have, you know. It's just, I can't think of a word for it, but nobody's perfect. I mean, we're all gonna make mistakes, hopefully learn something from them, and if we don't, well, just moving on.
That's the ignorance belief, and that's what the longer I have dealings with other people, the more I'm putting some stock in the ignorance thing, that some people, bad things happen to them because they just do stupid things and they keep doing the same stupid things over again. And you can try as you might, if you can't change their behavior, you can't keep dragging them along. You have to go on to the next one. Maybe you'll find somebody, and I still have faith that people will be helped, people will respond. You know, some people that you help, they turn around and get a job and put their life back together. There are drug addicts who have gotten off of drugs. They've gotten married, had kids, and lived good lives. So it is not something that doesn't happen, and that's the danger, is that you become hardened. You become to where you become a cynic. And that, I think, is partially as what has happened to some of our conservative friends and voters who think that the whole world is crap, and I get mine, and I want to get mine, and if I don't get mine, I don't care about anybody else, and if I get mine, I don't care about anybody else. We have to care about other people. But most of what happens badly, I agree, is random. Yes?
And, you know, something as bad as the Holocaust. You could say that was, you know, God didn't interfere and stuff like that. I personally think that's a bunch of crap. That was caused by evil human beings.
And there was another quote that I should have written down and I didn't. Part of evil is good people doing nothing. I think Abraham Lincoln was the one that was talking about it, because you can't stop evil. I'll bring it up. I'll look it up and bring it next week, because I looked at it seriously but didn't write it down. They talked in World War II, part of the Ken Burns thing that Margaret's talking about. The Air Force could have bombed the railways going into Auschwitz and all the concentration camps and stopped the Germans from shipping all those people to the concentration camps. They didn't. One of the arguments was we need to bomb strategic things, not just the railroads. It so happened that I think it was Bergen-Belsen. One of the concentration camps was next to or close to a military-industrial complex that the 8th Air Force was bombing. And of course, in World War II, well, I assume now as well, when you bomb, it's not like precision bombing. You don't drop the bomb exactly where you want. You have hundreds of planes and they drop bombs all over the place, and they missed, like 90% of them miss, and you're hoping 10% of them hit. Well, part of the 90% that missed blew up the gas chambers at Bergen-Belsen or wherever it was, and there were no more executions for like 2 months until they could rebuild the gas chambers. So even that would have been a possibility, to bomb the actual camps themselves. And people said, well, if you bomb the camps, and there were Jews that said this, if you bomb the camps, you're going to kill innocent Jews. So the question was, do you sacrifice a few to save the many? And that happened in occasion too. Some concentration camps, including camps that American prisoners and British prisoners of war were being kept in, were bombed by mistake because they overshot the regular target. But do you not, it's like the hostage situation, do you not do anything and let this person kill more people, or do you go in and stop them? And that's the decision the police have to make in every hostage situation. Mm-hmm. And that's why sometimes you hear about innocent people being shot by the police, not intentionally, because they're trying to stop the perpetrator from doing it on a further basis. So anyway, but the American military command chose not to bomb the railway lines, which would have been, nobody would have been hurt, and the trains would have been disrupted. So there are things that could have been done, and that's what this 6 hours brings out. The whole American involvement, the whole Western world involvement, and we'll talk about that if we can watch the movie and discuss it later. But it all comes down to justice, I think. Okay, any other comments? Keep thinking about this. Justice is one thing that we are imminently and eminently involved in. That's every time you vote, you're involved with justice, what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes a little thing, as she said, a little flea bite can add up to a lot of flea bites, and sometimes it can change the dog's direction, the dog's activity. And that's what we're trying to do. Okay. Where are we here? The offering. Once again, if you can put something in to help us, the heat's on, that costs money. So, and the electricity's on, that costs money. If you need something, please let us know and we will take something out. And we're going to hear I Got Rhythm. We need something up after that. That's good, thank you. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue. Our closing hymn, 70. Heap high the farmer's wintry hoard, which they are in the process of doing. Only I don't like to call it a hoard. They're not really hoarding it.
No.
They're just kind of putting it away for future use.
We're sharing it around the world.
Yes, exactly. came up with these lyrics. All through the long bright days of June, its leaves grew green and fair, and waved in hot midsummer's noon its soft and yellow hair. Can't you just see the corn growing and tasseling and the little tassels coming out? And now with autumn's moonlit eyes, its harvest time has come. We pluck away the frosted leaves and bear the treasure home. Really nice. All right, extinguishing the chalice is Be True, Be Well, Be Loving by Cynthia Landrum. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and our faith continues until we are together again, friends. Be strong, be well, be true, be loving. This last slide, next to the last slide, is a famous Union slide. You see what happens when evil is chasing individuals, and then you see what happens in unity. There is strength. That is not only for union members, that is for anyone who is facing adversity. And I'll leave you with, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Our postlude is When You Wish Upon a Star. Doesn't that take you back to when you were a kid sitting cross-legged in front of the TV on Sunday night with your bowl of popcorn and the one soda pop you get a week in front of a TV that is a console that was the size of a couch with a little tiny screen in the middle of it? And I'm old enough, I can remember TVs before they had color TV.
Yeah.
We used to get a piece of plastic with different colors on it, and you stick it on the front of the TV, and it said, make your color TV for only $9 or whatever. And all it was a rainbow of colors going across the front. Well, we were suckers in those days, too. All right. There's donuts back there, and there's hot water for coffee. We can make lemonade if you want, but I think we're past those days. So that closes our service at New Madison. Hope you have a good week. If you need something, let us know. If you want to contribute or have some ideas to help the Ukrainians, let us know that too.
So, how does this